This is the longest of all the questions, so if you bear with me. Now, can you, when your community, your congregation, or even your denominational conference, can you give an example of when the community was faced with a ministry opportunity or a negative ministry situation, so something positive or negative, that your current structure couldn't currently fit? Can you give an example of when you had that type of encounter and how you guys adjusted to deal with the new reality that came up? So you understand how I'm kind of putting that? I give you the wording, but it's even muddier than that. So.
I have one right away, Chris. Would you want me to go? In my work with Franconia Conference, the thing about conferences is that conferences are structures.
Right.
And there's sort of ways for churches to be lodged together and communicate information. And so frequently they're rule-bound. By for all sorts of reasons, whether it's tradition or their actual what they do. So one of the things that happened for us was we had a congregation that was interested in joining us as a conference. But we hadn't had a new congregation join the conference in 10 years. And we had not had a congregation ever that I can think of. I don't think we had ever had a congregation come from being non-denominational to wanting to join the denomination.
Ah, okay.
So we were in a really weird situation in that they were interested in joining us. Their connections to the Mennonite Church were via Jakarta in Indonesia. So that was very confusing to us. And the statement of beliefs that we would use to approve them is not available in Indonesian. So normally we would say you need to work through this statement of beliefs, but we're working with a congregation of 150 people who can't read the document. So the challenge was, okay, well that's all out.
Okay, so now what do you do?
And there were some issues related to immigration that meant that this had to be moved much more quickly than we could normally move. And were we ready to be compassionate and recognize that this small, fledgling, actually not small, 150 people, member congregation that has Mennonite connections back to Indonesia, that's in Philadelphia, has said, can you guys help us? And we never thought that they would join, but they needed to join for a number of reasons.
Right, okay.
And we weren't really ready for that.
So what did you do?
Well, we did something. It was a heroic act on the behalf of people who normally would say that their roles don't call for heroic things.
Interesting, all right.
It was a board level decision. And so what they needed to do was they needed to violate what had been previous tradition, which no one could remember because we hadn't done it for 10 years anyway. Which the tradition was that the congregation was presented at a specific time at a meeting to join. Well, we did not have that time. We did not have that stretch of time. We needed to do it immediately, virtually immediately. And the board did it, and then we moved, and it was a heroic act because it actually moved us towards saying the decision for who joins us and does not will be left to staff and board and will not be up for a yes or no vote anymore.
Interesting.
So those congregations will be affirmed in the same way that congregations would affirm persons who are baptized. Congregations don't get to decide as a community who's baptized or not.
Right, okay.
So we changed the rules in multiples of ways because of actually knowing what the right thing to do was.
You based it on the mission that you had.
Yeah.
So now how has that relationship been?
The relationship has been amazing with the congregation. It was a little tenuous at the beginning, but when people saw the willingness of that congregation to engage the community as a whole, they send kids to Christopher Dock Mennonite High School. One of their pastors is on the board of Mennonite Central Committee.
Really? Okay.
They've engaged very readily, give generously. And I think that's a good challenge for a fairly traditional community to say, look, we're not just coming here because we need something from you. We will actually, this is a community we want to be part of.
Okay, we're not using you. We want to actually be involved in it.
They needed us.
Right.
They needed us because of our 300-year history here. As a U.S. church, we could do something that they could not do as a congregation.
Right.
Because their denominational connection was back through Indonesia.
That's just amazing to me.
So it was great. It was a really fun experience, and it was a really terrifying experience because it's a group that I worked with, and I thought, if we can't do this, like how horrible is this? if we can't figure this out?
Yeah, what are we here for again? Yeah.
So it was an amazing experience.
That's actually the best story someone's told for this yet. No pressure, Chris, by the way.
Yeah, I won't be able to beat that one. That's a good.
That's a good one. You could be George. That's it. I'm done. Bye.